I know that you're very excited to watch another one of my teaching videos, and ecstatic indeed. So this one is going to be on chapter 13. I'm going to go through the slideshows to make sure that you've read chapter 13 for the week of, 510 to 514 is chapter 13 and impromptu speech. And this is where I'll discuss the performance speeches for next week. So 517 and 518, that is going to be work time for both groups. I'm absent on the 18th. So practice, start your things that might need to take place for the next week. 519 Group A will present performance speeches, and on 520 Group B will present, and then 521 is distance learn. So let's first look at the chapter review. So here's chapter 13. And in chapter 13, I'm going to kind of advance. We're going to talk about persuasion a little bit because in the sales speech, you'll be working on persuasion. Many people are not comfortable with persuasion, but it's important for change to be able to persuade people in different positive ways and persuasion. The definition is the process of creating, reinforcing, or changing people's beliefs or actions. Best thought of as a movement on a continuum of -3 to +3. So you visualize and quantify where your audience sits, and then you try to move them from there. So you kind of have to know your audience. So neutral, 0, are they really strongly disagreeing or strongly agreeing to the +3 side? So if like everybody's over to +3, you're not really persuading anybody unless you're trying to get them to disagree with something. Understanding the process, 3 possible goals: creating 0 to a +2 or 3, reinforce a +2 or 3, or change a - to a plus. Your audience, the members of the audience the speaker wants to persuade, and who are likely to be receptive to persuasive messages. Doesn't mean the rest of the audience is ignored. You still have to engage everybody. The persuasion process, get as much info as possible about the audience knowledge and attitudes. You have to kind of know your audience. Is the speech a think or do speech? Argue for a negative is difficult. Phrase proposition as for rather than against. So it's a little bit easier if you go for something rather than against. So sometimes you have to reword how you're going to do this. And phrase the proposition or thesis as clearly as possible. The persuasion process, refined definition. It's symbolic in its process, in which communicators try to convince other people to change their attitudes or behavior on an issue through the transmission of a message in an atmosphere of free choice. Your atmosphere of free choice isn't really free because you have to be in this classroom. Definition emphasizes audience choice, mental dialogue, attempt, demands, ethical approach of the speaker. Persuasion is hard. It's difficult because change is stressful. It's undesirable. Some people are really bullheaded and they don't want to change, even if they know it's right. Selective exposure to protect our current thinking. Sometimes we choose not to watch or do certain things to protect what we want or what we want to think, like not watching the news for certain reasons. Theory of cognitive dissonance. People confronted with conflicting information or viewpoints reach a state of discomfort and want to relieve it. So cognitive dissonance is when you get to a certain point and therefore you have some conflict or viewpoints that are of discomfort. It's very uncomfortable for people in their mind or actions. Audience develops reservations or counter arguments when listening, like they want to go against what you're saying. Here are some solutions to persuasion. Don't insult the audience. Acknowledge counter arguments when you present. Provide evidence for counter arguments. So you have to plan, what are people going to say against me in my views? Don't forget about logos, ethos, and pathos. Those are all, of course, logos, logic, and ethos, credibility of the speaker. Pathos is more emotional. You see that like in poetry, music. And traditional views of persuasion, whoops, right here. Constructing your speech, make a good proposition, construct your speech around it, and make sure you have quality evidence. Don't just get stuff and believe it to be true. There are types of propositions or claims. There are 4 types, one of fact, definition, value, or policy. So when you create your claim, you'll create one of those 4 types. And then they give examples in the slideshow of those 4 types. Okay, so I'm going to move forward here in this. And organization, problem solution is usually for this type of speech, or problem cause solution. And that is normally this type of speech. Monroe's motivated sequence, you first have to get the attention, what's the need, the satisfaction, visualization so we can see it, and what do you want us to do about it, the action. It's called Monroe's motivated sequence. You'll also be working with that on another speech. Building your evidence, it needs to be credible. Don't just do it for shock value. Make sure you cite it in your context. And in your conclusion, you want to restate your main points. Include ethos, logos, and pathos. Cite your sources. What do you want us to do about it? And that would be mostly for chapter 13 ideas. Next, I'm going to talk about the speech categories. So your next speech is the speech where you're working on speech categories. There's lots of different types of speeches. Sorry. So you have to pick a speech category. And I included this link in with your whole folder in speeches for the performance speeches. So you want to kind of read through these. These are the rules for each type: creative expression, humorous interpretation, serious poetry interp, serious prose, duo, great speeches, serious drama interp. So when you look at what you're graded on, it says you have a choice between different types of performance speeches: descriptions of the different categories, creative expression, humorous interp, serious prose interp, and great speeches are all in Schoology. I didn't put them in D2L. Appropriateness of the piece choice for the audience is expected, along with getting within the time limit. Lack of choosing an appropriate piece for the audience or the category may result in not passing the assignment. Not following the time limit, -2. So, 2 to 4 minutes. Assess your expressiveness and appropriateness of delivery is the goal. So, piece choice. You want to make sure it's clear. 2 to 4 sentence intro, why the piece is important to you. And then the vocal variety. Pitch is varied and matches the tone of the piece. So you have a little intro here before you even start the speech or the piece. Vocal variety, pitch is varied and matches the tone of the piece. So remember, tone is attitude of the piece. Pitch, you want to make sure your voice is not the same, monotone. Volume and rate, appropriate for the room, audience, and is varied to reflect what is occurring in the piece. Gestures and movement, utilized as appropriate. Sometimes you have movement in parts and sometimes you don't. Expressiveness and emotion, clear that you pushed yourself to be expressive and appropriate to the piece. So this one is for 25 points. We will have the sign up. This is also in there. So again, I'm absent the 18th. So the 17th and 18th were more independent study and work time. The 19th and 20th will be speech days for the performance category. So make sure that you are checking in Schoology. You want to make sure that you're getting signed up, that you're checking all of the different things for the performance speech category. And I want to remind you, I put a bunch of examples and links in the Schoology. I put some links in the week of 5:10 to 5:14. So there's several links in there. Again, the speeches are 5:17 through 5:21, but we'll do them only on the 19th and 20th. So most of the speech examples are in the 5:10 to 5:14 folder. So you can find them there in our class folder. So I'm not going to open that. So let me know if you have questions. Remember, you need to put this on black paper. You'll make sure that you use black paper for your speech. Again, the speeches will be on the 19th and 20th. I just went through chapter 13 slideshow. And let me move down to this part. Here we have speech categories, 19th and 20th. Remember, find your own favorite speech. You can use the script, but no other visuals. The script should not be used as a prop in the speech, so you don't want to use your script and move it around. You may even use your own poem or personal narrative that you wrote, as long as it's long enough. I don't prefer for you to perform a clip from a movie or TV show or song lyrics because it's just hard to really make that your own and change that interpretation. Oops, my screen forward. Okay, get approval before your piece. And again, I shared all these examples in the Distance Learn folder. Don't forget to put your speech on black construction paper and be ready and prepared. Use vocal pitch, different voice, and you'll see lots of examples, as I said. So if you have any questions, please send me an email, and good luck on this next speech categories, performance categories speech.